We welcome to the Only Fools and Horses podcast Geoff Leesley, who played the part of a policeman in It's Only Rock and Roll. How's it going?
All right, thanks. I mean, it's fine. I'm quite surprised to be asked to do this. I mean, I only did one episode, it's extraordinary. But however, I mean, I understand you guys who are all very keen on the show, and why wouldn't you? It was very successful, very funny, one of my favorite shows, I have to say. And it was a complete and utter pleasure actually doing it. It was just so great. I mean, it's a long time ago now. I can't remember when it actually was, and I don't think I've seen it since it was broadcast originally. But no, lots of fun on it. It was just great. I mean, John Sullivan, I think, was just a genius. When it came to writing, he was just so funny. His dialogue was superb, and the way that he did wonderful kind of twists of things. I mean, my favorite episode, I think, was the one with the chandelier. When I'm sure you remember that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes me laugh even now when I think about it. It's such a great setup, so clever, really. And no idea, of course, that there were two chandeliers in the room. It's very funny. Oh, that was great. Oh, great fun. So
Yeah.
I don't know, ask away. I mean, as I say, it's a long time ago, so I can't probably remember a lot, but I'll certainly, help you if I can.
That's all right. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned you was in one episode, but we find that a lot on the podcast that even if somebody was in it for one scene or one moment, they're still
Right.
remembered for that part. We find
Well,
that a lot.
so I understand. I mean, ironically, if sometimes you get sent things, by fans of shows and stuff, and I have to say that I think I can't think of any other photograph that is sent to me, but it always seems to me the one, that I'm playing the policeman in that particular scene. And I've lost count a number of times I've had to sign a photograph for it, for it and send it away. But yeah, clearly people remember, and it's great that they do. I mean, I've certainly have fond memories of doing it. In fact, I was originally booked for it, but sadly, Grandad, have died, alas, and it was, and then obviously I had to recast, and fortunately they asked me back again anyway when Uncle came in, but
Wow.
Leonard Pierce, I mean, was a great loss, I think, to the show. I mean, he was wonderful and in fact, I think it was a bit, well, he was, it was a difficult one because it was Buster's first episode, and I remember him being very nervous because, I mean, after all, I think he was an amateur actor, I think, and a former bank manager, if I recall correctly, and although he was very good, and I mean, we had a week's rehearsal, of course, and he was very, very nervous at the beginning of it. But he was very competent by, the recording day on Friday, and obviously did a great job over the years. But yeah, I don't know. It was obviously a new thing for him to actually, go into a recording studio and things like that. But the audience warmed to him, and he was great. I mean, it was a very successful evening, if I remember rightly. And
Yeah. And Emily, I think we heard on the podcast before how when it was Buster's first time in the studio in front of a live studio audience, how he messed up a scene, and then Sir David messed up a scene on purpose to put
purpose.
to
Yeah,
put
that's
his
great.
mind at ease. I thought that was great.
No, it is, and it's very, I mean, it's lovely when actors do that, leading actors, do that. I remember I was a sort of semi-regular in Bergerac years ago, and I remember there was one, it was because it was filmed in Jersey. Equity allowed local people to become extras in the show, rather than fly people out from the mainland, and we used a lot of real policemen there, Jersey policemen, and also I remember there was a waiter. I mean, he was a real waiter, and I mean there was a scene where John Nettles and I were at the kind of bar, and this guy just had to serve us a drink, and he was so nervous, it was kind of rattling, and the producer of the show came in, and he said, "Oh, actually, should we, call lunch now?" He said, "We're getting there." So And the producer spent the whole lunchtime with this chap, just chatting to him, making him feel at ease. And then John Nettle has also cocked up, when we got back after lunch, John, deliberately cocked up a line on, in the same way that David did, and it just made the guy feel at ease. And of course, he was fine after that, but I just thought it was great that Rob Banks Stewart, the producer, had spent the whole, lunchtime with him, sitting just with him, just making him feel at home and welcome. And I mean, it's because it can be quite intimidating, of course, coming into something like that, but no, so lovely when, people make the effort and make people feel at ease, great stuff. Actors are nice people, on the whole.
What was it like working with David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst?
Well, they were just very funny. They're obviously great professionals, and it was very funny set up because apparently I think it was Rodney's kind of garage, or their garage, obviously full of stolen stuff, and Rodney goes in there, finds something missing, and calls the police. I mean, it's just a great setup. And of course, David appears and does triple takes and thinks, what have you done?
I think it was his drumstick, if I remember correctly.
Pardon?
I think it was his drumstick. Was it, Emily?
It was his drum set that was.
The whole drum set, the drum kit.
Oh,
yeah, apart from one drumstick that was left behind.
That's it. Yeah, I knew there was a drumstick somewhere.
Yeah.
No, it was great. It's just a lovely setup, and of course, trying to get out of that situation was so difficult for them. But much as David and Nicholas are wonderful actors, question about that. To help them, they had, John Sullivan's brilliant script. And at the end of the day, that's really, that's the basis for everything. But of course, good actors interpret everything very, very well. And, obviously it wouldn't work the same if they didn't have the actors to go with it. And of course, the more that series went on, John was able to sort of write things for them in a way, because they brought, the characters that they became, they brought stuff themselves to it, which made it easier for him to write, really. But what's so clever about it, a lot of the sitcoms in America are written by a group of writers. And whereas, over here, we tend to have sort of one writer who does them all, and in the old days, I think it's more, they do tend to have more writers these days, but, for sitcoms. But, our country has a history seems to be of like one writer per, comedy series. And considering, I think, obviously more brains are better than one, but I still think it's brilliant that, that we had to have so many successful comedy shows, in the early days. And I don't know how long it has been since. I still get repeats for open, open all hours and things like that, but also for Only Fools. I think it's probably, I don't know. I've earned a fortune over the years, having just done one episode, and suddenly I'll get a nice repeat check for something because it's been shown again somewhere, and so heaven knows what all regulars got. People like John Challis and, Ken MacDonald, bless him. Lovely man. No, that's the other thing.
Sadly, no longer with us. But yeah, just for being, like you say, just for one episode. But it was a very good episode, I'd say. It's only rock and roll. The scene we were talking about, Emily, we were saying Rodney thinks there's been a robbery, but it turns out that Del has sold the drum kit, hasn't he?
Yeah. It's on Sailor Return.
Oh, right. A Sailor Return, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You're obviously very knowledgeable about the
yeah.
We have to be.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So you were able to get it on some sort of, screening, presumably, or I don't know. It's not on IMDb still. It's not.
It's on Gold, UK Gold.
Gold.
And I've got the DVDs as well.
Oh, have you? Gosh.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, it's great. It's just so great. And particularly with the. Again, and are you going to be at the convention or in August at the?
I'm not, unfortunately.
Not this time. We couldn't get tickets. You can't always get tickets. You've got to be really quick.
Right. Yeah. Well, as I say, I was incredibly surprised to be invited to that as well. And But anyway, you know, that's great. I mean, I've been looking forward to it. It'd be fun.
Is it your first time?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, when Chris McNeil got in touch with me, I just suddenly thought, well, because we're all kind of on Twitter, sort of following each other a bit, and of course, I mean, quite a few of the actors in it I knew anyway, you know, over the years. I mean, I worked with John Challis before, and before that in the theatre, and Ken MacDonald I knew from, you know, other television shows and stuff, and was a bit of a pal. So yeah, no, I mean, it's just so nice to see people doing so well and stuff. I mean, yeah, great. And I mean, and that, as I say, those, I suppose they're classic, really. As you say, it's gold, you know, it's gold stuff. And so, I mean, I don't actually subscribe to gold. Perhaps I ought to.
Yeah, it's they play all sorts, don't they? But it's mainly on the Fours and Horses that they play.
Right.
But they
Well,
play a lot of the old
I'm very
classics.
grateful.
But even we spoke to, I can't remember who it was we spoke to actually,
Right.
but he was saying, you know, the classic bar scene where Del falls through the bar.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
forget that. But the guy who's just at the pub, he's just serving Del Boy. Apparently, every time that showed, he gets a check.
Right. I can believe that.
Fair play, but yeah, it's
Oh, no,
just amazing,
absolutely.
isn't it?
It is surprising, but I mean, you know, I mean, it's probably only a pittance, but I mean, the thing is, you know, I mean, I do get stuff occasionally, you know, when it's repeated on gold and whatever. I mean, you know, it's not the full fee, of course, every time, but it's very nice, and not often, you know, the equity or whatever, they'll collect it all together, and then, you know, all those small sums become one larger sum, and then it's a very pleasant surprise when it suddenly appears in your bank account, and you go, oh wow, you know. It's nice. A nice thing about it. I mean, because these days, you know, often they'll do a buyout, I think, you know, and whereas if you in the old days, you know, when we had contracts that you know, the equity contracts originally, but of course then they realized that it was going to cost them an awful lot of money over the years to keep repeating these things. So I mean, I don't know whether, you know, I mean, David must be earning a fortune, what with the number of times it's been repeated, and also Frost and things like that, you know, and Open All Hours, which, fun enough, my wife,
Porridge.
and Porridge, and you know, name it, you name it. I mean, it's just amazing, really, when I think about it. But I mean, those are the nice things about actors. You know, most of us earn, you know, still hanging in there, just earning about enough, you know. But then, you know, it's great to see people who are successful and are able to give things back, you know.
Wasn't the
And
big thing back then to have an equity card when you were first becoming an actor?
yeah, very difficult. It was. I mean, you don't have to have an equity card now, but at the time when I came into the business, it was essential. I mean, well, you know, and I was very fortunate because I went to a good drama school. I went to RADA, and then I was fortunate enough to get a job at Birmingham Rep Theatre afterwards. Now there are no reps anymore. You know, they've all gone, unfortunately. But every year, repertory theatres were allowed to give 2 new equity cards to, you know, people who weren't members, if you were lucky enough to be cast in something. So I was very grateful to Michael Simpson, who was then the director of Birmingham Repertory Theatre, and I was able to do that. And then you had to have before you became you were a sort of provisional member until you did, I think it was 48 weeks or something like that of professional work. But the good news then, of course, is that I had a contract for the season, you know, for the year, and so I was able to become a full member, you know, within that short time. So I was very lucky when I first started. But I know lots of contemporaries of mine who really struggled initially to get going, and I mean, it divides opinion, you know. I mean, I've never really thought about anything else, you know. I mean, I just think, well, you know, you've got to, it needs must, you need to go into it, and if you really care and you want to do it enough, you will find a way of getting an equity card, you know. That's the way. Whereas a lot of people put them off, you know, and I just think, well, you know, nowadays anybody can be an actor, and you know, and that's fine, you know. I'm not afraid of the competition at all, but I worry when it comes to things like, you know, insurance and things like that. You know, people don't bother to be a member of equity, but then, you know, they'll perhaps be involved in an accident at work, you know, and they're not really covered and things like that. So I don't know. I always preach to, if I'm in a company with people who aren't in equity, I usually sort of give them the lecture.
Try to get
Say,
them on board, yeah.
yeah, try and get them on board, only from their sakes more than anything else, you know. And
Yeah.
I know if they have to pay a fee, but it's worth it in the long run because it's very cheap insurance, you know, for instance, and they have the union backing for them, you know. So I don't know. I don't know. I've been heaven knows how many years now as equity member, but now I've become a sort of senior, what they call a senior member, after 50 odd years. So you know, still hanging in there, as I say.
Right. So you also starred with Sir David in Darling Buds of May, is that correct?
I don't know about starred, but yeah, no, I was in it. I didn't have
He
a
was in
seat.
it.
I was in the same show. You know, I did. I don't think he was around actually because the scene I was a head brewer, I think, if I remember rightly, and my scene was with oh gosh, I've forgotten his name now. Who played the son? Delightful man. Directs an awful lot of stuff now, and no, I had a lovely time on that. No, it was great, but David actually wasn't around. I mean, I did do I did do I still open all hours about a couple of years ago with but it was a small little cameo. I mean, my wife actually plays Mavis in the show, so I think she secretly got me in, you know, just to do a bit of a cameo. And then my agent sort of rang up and said, "Oh, by the way," and I thought, this is Maggie being a bit naughty, but it was nice. It was lovely. It was lovely to
Emily,
do.
you've seen quite a bit of that, haven't you? Still open all
Yes,
hours?
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
watched
yeah.
all open all hours, yeah.
All right. Well, you know, I mean, Maggie, my wife, plays Mavis, you know, who David has the kind of romance with.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've obviously been to a few recordings of that, although they stopped recording it actually after a while. I think you know, I think in the last series, or in fact, the last couple of series, I think they recorded it and put it together and then put it in front of a live audience because you know, they're all of a certain age, shall I say, and I mean, I think they struggle with the lines sometimes. That's the trouble. So
Yeah.
I think they ended up that it might be a good idea if they recorded it all first and then put it in front of a live audience. Otherwise, you'd be there all night.
It's still a good series, though.
Oh no, it's fun. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think there's going to be any more purely and
No.
simply because of, you know, alas, they've lost a couple of people, you know, unfortunately. And I also equity, or the insurance companies actually have brought in a new thing since COVID that they don't like to insure people over a certain, you know, over 70. You know, I think they're allowed two members of the cast to be over 70. Otherwise, their insurance premium goes sky high. You know, so when you consider the age of still open all hours cast, I mean, I think that's I mean, it's not officially been finished, but I you know, it's not. It's unlikely, I think, to come back, really. But they were good, fun episodes, you know,
Well,
and people have retired. I mean, Steph Cole's retired, really, more or less now, and we lost dear Bridget earlier on in the year, unfortunately. So, you know, good friends seem to be going to more funerals these days than weddings, put it that way.
you do as you get older, don't you? Go to
Well,
more
I'm afraid so.
funerals.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
That's what my dad said when I got married. He was like, "Oh, yes, we're going to a wedding, not a funeral."
Well, that's right. Yeah. Nice change. Oh, yes. I mean, like, you know, yeah, you go into your kids' weddings really now. You know, the only wedding you go to really is you know, your kids' generations.
Mm.
I mean, even my kids are too old.
My
And you
brother's getting
mentioned,
married next year. So that's gonna be
Yeah,
good
well,
one,
you know,
hopefully.
I mean, we'll see. You know, great.
who's getting married, Emily? Sorry.
My brother.
Oh,
My brother.
nice.
Great. That's nice. Do you know his lady, or is he marrying a man? I don't know.
My sister-in-law, yeah, they're having a baby as well. They're
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
due in
Congrats.
October, so
You're going to be an
oh,
auntie then.
yes, my ninth one. I'm an auntie to
Oh,
that.
really? Oh, you're quite a, oh, I see. You're a veteran auntie then.
Yes.
Oh, God. Lots of responsibility with that, I think. So, but at least you can give them back, can't you?
Well, two of them have just turned 16 not long ago, so
Wow.
Oh,
they're a
okay.
bit easier.
I didn't think you'd beat me at that, Emily, because I've got 8. So
Wow. Wow. Wow.
amazing. But I'm having my own kids soon, so very
Oh,
soon, the 1st
well,
of August. So if I have to rush off in a minute,
wow. Well, good. Go,
Oh, good
just
luck.
enjoy the freedom while you can.
I know everybody keeps telling me that.
Oh, I mean, gosh, I mean, up nights and all that sort of thing. But it's all wonderfully
Worth
worth
it.
it in the
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
All
But
worth it.
no, work hard and all that sort of stuff. No, it's I remember it. Lack of sleep.
Everybody says that, yeah. So you
Uh,
mentioned a live studio audience.
yeah.
Do you think that's something lacking in today's comedy? I mean, it did seem to bring out the best in the actors, I thought.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I haven't done one for a bit, and as I say, the last one I did, which was still open all hours, was recorded separately, and then, as I say, put together. But it's always lovely to be with a live audience and to make, especially in a comedy.
Mm.
And I mean, there's nothing nicer than making people laugh, and if you've got a I mean, I'm fortunate because I'm an experienced theatre actor as well. So, I'm quite used to working in front of a live audience. But often people in television aren't necessarily so, because they tend to do, and they can get quite nervous. Not that I didn't get nervous. I mean, you're always nervous before you actually do a show. But there's nothing nicer, especially if you've got a really wonderful script like, John Sullivan's script. I mean, it's just inevitable. And often, obviously they're often fans of the show who manage to get tickets and get in anyway. And so you're halfway there really with them, I mean, they're rooting for you anyway. So no, it's just great. And it is, I mean, it's, it is difficult because, I mean, obviously if somebody does make a mistake and you have to go again, then they're not going to laugh as much perhaps as the first time because it's, they've seen it before, as it were. But I mean, sometimes I think what they do is that they'll use the sound tape from the first take so that because it's the more sort of immediate one. And so I mean there are lots of sort of technical things that they can do and to keep feeling live, even though it's not necessarily so. But of course it's not cheating really, because they saw it for the first time anyway, which is good.
We spoke to Mike Fenton Stevens, who
Oh
was
yes.
in
Yes,
The
I know
Unlucky
who it is.
Winner Is. And he said the problem they had when they were doing the live audience was that
Right.
people were laughing too much, even at things that weren't funny.
Oh dear. Oh dear. No, well, I mean, yes, I mean that can happen too. But I mean it's interesting because it's about comedy timing, and if you well, it's you learn about timing, because you've got to wait for people. If they're laughing too much, you've really got to wait for the right moment to speak again, because otherwise it just gets lost, amongst the laughter. So that's something you learn very early on usually, and it's I mean most actors are able to cope with that, particularly if they're used to doing comedy, and so, but you're right. I mean, they can, because they just love the situation of it all, and even if somebody's off camera, of course, because they get to see everything, not necessarily what's on camera, and so if, they may be laughing at something that, not necessarily David, but somebody sort of off camera might do something, when he's thinking about what he's going to do in the next scene, and it might be funny because he's very, very good. I mean, he's a genius when it comes to what we call business in the theater, in the business, which is about kind of doing things like like the bar trick, of things like that. That's what we would call business, sort of a nice way of kind of using moves or whatever rather than the dialogue, just to enhance what's going on. And yeah, forgot what the question was now.
That's all right.
But
You mentioned about the bar scene, and you talked about the chandelier scene. Of course, two of the best moments in Friends, definitely.
Definitely.
No question about it. Just very, very, very funny. I mean, I just because it was I think a lot of our episode, funny enough, was on film, because it was about, about the band and the wasn't it about rock, because it's only rock and roll. I mean, the main content of it was, I think, a lot shot on film because so I mean, I think fairly few scenes actually were done in the studio live at the time, if I remember rightly. But of course, a lot in the flat. I think they did a lot in the flat with Buster doing stuff. And yeah, no, I mean, great fond memories, no question about it. I mean, even though it's a long time ago, I remember certain things, and I must get onto Gold and see if I can watch the episode again to remind me of it.
And
I think it was repeated a lot.
Sorry?
I think it is repeated quite a bit, that one.
Oh, okay, right. I'll but it might even be on YouTube. A lot of things are these days.
Oh, it will be, yeah. Probably on our channel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mental Mickey's a big character in that one, isn't he? Daniel Peacock, we've spoken to him before.
Right. Yeah.
People always say to him about in the episode, do you do the 1, 2, 3, 4s? And he'll always have to, do his line.
Not do his line. I know. Oh, it's terrible. It's extraordinary how people, get known for just, one line. Sometimes it's repeated or whatever, I remember, funnily enough, we went to Richard Wilson's party the other day because it was his birthday, and everybody's always asking him to repeat, that 1 foot in the grave. It's, in fact, the joke is I can't remember what it is now, but I mean,
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. That's it.
That's it.
People always. I mean, I think he got fed up with saying it.
There was also another one with the telephone where he picks up a dog or something. That was quite funny.
Yes, that was quite funny. No, I mean, there's some great, as I say, I think there's a lovely tradition of old sitcoms which is great. I look as though I'm sitting in the dark here, actually. So I closed the shutters because of the sun. So
the reflection, yeah. I should have done that, really.
I can see you quite clearly. But I don't know.
But with both of those scenes, the bar scene and the chandelier scene, we spoke about this before, how they were actually based on real life. Exaggerated versions of something John Sullivan knew. So
yeah, no, I can believe that. I mean, it's well, I mean, they always say write what you know about, and I mean, because it's usually clear. I mean, the one, I mean, there was I don't know if it's an apocryphal story or not, but there was a theatre company went to Moscow, and during the early 70s. Prospect Theatre Company. I don't think they exist anymore, but they went to Moscow and they did. There was one guy in the company who was obsessed with. He said, "I'm sure they're listening." To it. And he kept looking for a bug in his hotel room. He was looking under lights and whatever and all sorts of things. And he suddenly noticed that he walked on something in the middle of the room under the carpet. So he rolled the carpet back, and there was this disc in the middle of the floor, and he thought, right, I'm having this. And so he got a screwdriver somewhere and removed this disc, and apparently, the chandelier in the dining room below fell down. So I mean, I don't know whether he got that story or not, which was, it was doing the rounds at the time. So maybe John based it on that. I don't know. So
I think it was his father, wasn't it, Emily? Do you remember that? Chris was
his grandfather.
A grandfather, yeah.
Oh,
but it was quite bad because it was like he was with labourers and they lost their jobs. It was something bad.
Oh no, it sounds like really bad. How awful.
Yeah, but it turned it into something funny.
I mean, great comedy moment. That's no question about that. I mean, it's just absolutely brilliant. I remember falling about. I mean, laughing out loud. I mean, how could you not? Something as wonderful as that. So clever, very funny. No, great.
I like the bit with Grandad where, he obviously does it, but then he comes running down the stairs and he thinks he's done such a great job.
Yeah,
just so
it's lovely. That's so funny.
All right, they weren't allowed to laugh, were they?
No, that's true.
Yeah, no. Well, of course, because it was a pretty serious thing from their point of view.
Yeah, and the chandelier was expensive just to drop.
Oh no, I bet. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think the director said,
one take,
I
one
think
take.
yeah, I think the director said that if you laugh, we've lost the take, we've lost
Yeah.
the series.
Well, I know. I think you're right. I mean, they're probably right. Because I mean, it's there are occasions. I mean, the pressure on that one must have been enormous. Because as you say, it's that's it. You've got one take, and that's it, and you better get it right. Otherwise, you've had it. So funny. I mean, can you imagine? But it was brilliant. I mean, they did a great job, no question about that.
How they kept a straight face, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they knew what was coming, so it does help. But I mean, that's something you've got to kind of be aware of. It's there's comedy is funnier when people are serious. I mean, well, you've probably heard that expression. Comedy is a serious business, and it is, because I mean, it's truth. You have to be, it's truthful, and if you're not truthful, then it's not as funny. You've got to believe that it's true, and that's when it's funny, and your reaction is aghast or whatever it is, rather than laughing. There's nothing worse than being on stage with somebody and he gets the giggles, because it's the audience resent it, because they think it's too in. You know what I mean? They think, oh,
Yeah,
an in joke, and they don't like it, and quite rightly, in my opinion. So
And that's the problem with comedies now. It's too dramatized, whereas before,
yeah,
comedies were more natural and more classic than what they are now.
yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, what they were called situation comedies. It was about the situation, and I mean, there are very few far between these days. I mean, a lot of things, tend to be. I mean, comedians actually are taking a lot of people like Lee Mack or whatever. He's more of a comedian than an actor. But I mean, but he's very good in what he does. No question about it. But it's a different. Actually, comedy is more like in variety, whereas actors are more straight. It's a sort of straight thing. But he's very clever, in the comedy that he does. I can't remember what it's called, but he's very good, because he obviously delivers stuff even when he's doing stand-up, and he'll do it truthfully, which makes people laugh, as I say. So I don't know. I'm sounding like a bit of an old fool, really.
No, you know.
we agree. So we prefer the old comedies.
Oh, do you? All right. It's just
Forever.
it's classic sort of old actor going, well, in my day,
We're on a time warp, so don't worry.
No, it's funny. I mean, there's some great shows. I mean, to be honest, I don't watch a lot of TV these days. I mean, I tend to read a lot and listen to music and stuff. A lot. I mean, we tend to watch a lot of sport, actually. I mean, things like that. I mean, of course, I'm missing the Olympics at the moment.
You can watch it after.
Oh, all right. And on the test match and things like that.
But with sport, when you watch it live, there's something about it, isn't there? Because it's live.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
with
yeah.
TV, it's not really a thing, is it? To be honest, live
Well, I know what
television.
you mean. It's completely different when you go, no question. I remember where we went up to it was quite a while at something. I mean, for my sins, I'm a Sheffield United supporter, and we've just been relegated, of course.
The Irons, is it?
The Blades, they're
The
called.
Blades, sorry, yeah.
That's all right. And then anyway, we were going up north to see relations at some point, and Maggie, my wife, said, "Oh, let's go and see a football match." And well, she's a Manchester City supporter, so she's doing all right at the moment. Excuse me. So I said, "Well, okay." I said, "Well, we can go and see, she said we could go and see Sheffield United." And I went, "All right." And excuse me. So I checked on the fixtures, and in fact, it was Sheffield Wednesday that were at home that weekend. So she said, "Well, let's go and see them." And I went, "What?"
Can't
Well,
do
of course
that.
we did. We did, but it was just wonderful. It was just great. I mean, because as we approached the ground, and just you could hear the roar of people, and we got there relatively late, and they were obviously roaring as the teams were coming out and all that. There's just nothing like being a live game and hearing the banter, and I mean, just lots of. We were sat in the family stand, and it was just lovely because there, I mean, people are so jokey and philosophical about, you're sitting next to some old bloke in in a black, you know, in a flat cap and all that sort of thing. He's seen it all. I remember, you know, Wednesday were playing really well in the first half, and then not so well in the second half. And he just turned to me and he said, "It's like they swapped shirts at half time, isn't it?" Things like that, you know. You'd think, "Oh, it's great," and you'd never get that watching the TV.
No.
So,
Yeah.
and it's
I
just,
know because I got a season ticket at Chelsea, so I
oh,
go
have you?
quite a
Oh,
lot.
well, there you
Yeah.
go. Well, very
I
nice
love it.
too.
Yeah.
Well, that's they've got, you got a good boy at the moment. Cole, you know, Palmer, he's doing all right, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's world class. Without him, we might have been relegated last season.
Oh, really? Well, I tell you, I mean, you know, Maggie was
One
very
man team, really.
upset.
But there
She
you
got
go.
very upset that he left Man City and went to you guys. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's a star.
yeah, no, he's
Definitely.
brilliant. He did a great job for England, I think, during the Euros, didn't he? Kept
Yeah,
saying,
hopefully he'll
"Bring him on,
start at the
bring him
next
on."
tournament.
Well, I
Hopefully.
think he will. I mean, you know, I mean, I don't know why he didn't bring him on sooner, but never mind.
Same.
That's another day.
Anyway, so you've acted in many great TV shows over the years: The Bill, Coronation Street, Casualty, EastEnders, to name a few. But
Well, yeah.
what do you think's your favourite role out of all of them?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one. Well, I think probably. I mean, I enjoyed them all. I mean, you know, I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, actors are wonderful people, and you know, it's really lovely. I mean, I did the street once in the 1970s, and then I did it again about 30 years later. And I remember the two people who welcomed me onto the show were William Roach, and Eileen Derbyshire. So it just made me feel welcome and said, "Welcome to the show," and things like that. You know, Ken Barlow and Emily
Bishop.
Yeah, Bishop, yeah. So they were the two actors that came up to me on day one in 1970, whatever it was that we did it. 30 years later, I went, and the two actors who welcomed me to the show were Bill Roach and Eileen Derbyshire. And I thought, they've been doing this every week for 30 odd years. You know, I mean, what a wonderful thing to do. I mean, it's just remarkable, really. I just think it just made you put yourself at ease immediately. And, you know, that's what it did. But that probably wasn't my favorite. I mean, my favorite role, if I'm really honest, was the part that I did in Bergerac, because it's such a great job, because I was in Jersey for the majority of the time, because in the old days they would contract you for the whole of the episode. So whereas now they tend to just contract you for the day's filming that you're involved in. But when I was doing Bergerac, you know, I was on Jersey, and I was also what they call weather cover, because a lot of my scenes, I was playing as policeman, and a lot of my scenes were in the office, you know. So basically what happened was that, you know, if it was raining, I'd be working in the office, you know. But if it was sunny, I'd be on the beach, you know. I mean, what better job? What better job could you have? It was just so great, you know. I mean, because of course I was out there for about 3 weeks at a time, you know, and it was like being on holiday, really. So I suppose that was my favorite job, you know, my favorite job, really. I mean, and that didn't really have much to do with acting. It was all to do with being on holiday, really. But no, it was good. It was just great, fun memories of that. And you know, I mean, I'm still pals with people who are in that, you know, and still in touch and stuff. I mean, that's the wonderful thing. You can, you know, I mean, I got very upset. I remember when you first join, you know, the profession, and then you finish a job, and then suddenly it all disperses, and you know, everybody goes their separate ways. And I got, you know, you get so close when you work together, and I got upset about that. But you know, at the time, I remember. But then you get used to it, and you suddenly realise that as soon as you bump into people again, you just pick up where you left off. You know, it's just lovely. And so you might not see anybody for 20 years or something, and then suddenly it's, "Hey, how are you?" You know, you bump into each other again and all that. It's wonderful. And I mean, and what's wonderful about it is that, you know, it's not like going into the same job day after day after day. You're working with people of different cultures, different ages. It's not, you know, it's not ageist. So I mean, some of my friends are much younger than me, and you know, when I was young, the friends I was much older than me, and we all got on because we all had these wonderful, you know, central thing that we all believed in. And you know, so, you know, culturally, you know, a lot of black mates, you know, Asian mates, you know, I mean, it's great. I mean, you know, it's what should be a reflection of life, really, because I mean, we all get on, you know, we're all great, you know, we all have that common thing of interest that we love the theatre and you know, and acting and well, telly and film and all that, you know. So it's, I mean, I've not had a, you know, I've had a little bit of fame, I suppose, when I was a regular in Casualty for a bit, but then, you know, I've never sort of wanted to be famous. I just wanted to work, you know, and I mean, I don't know how stars get on with it actually, because I mean, it must get in the way, you know. And can you
I
imagine that?
imagine that it does.
We've
Well, I
heard
mean,
that before with
can't live the life,
obviously
can it? You know.
Nicholas Lyndhurst. Everywhere he goes, everyone's like, "All right, Dave," and things like that. And
Yeah, no, I'm sure. No, I know, I'm sure. I mean, you know, and it's the price you pay, I guess, you know, in some ways. But and some, you know, like most of the members of the public are fine and very, you know, and I respect that, your privacy and stuff. But you know, I mean, I know people who've been sitting out with dinner with their families, and they've been sort of bombarded with, you know,
mobbed. Yeah,
oh, how do you
there's a
cope with
way to go about things, isn't there? If you
it?
just
So yeah, and not
if you
everybody, unfortunately, is, you know, aware of doing it. You know, but
who was it recently, Emily? Wasn't it Denzel, the character, the actor who plays Denzel?
Yeah, someone saw him in a supermarket and
Paul Barber.
called him,
Paul Barber,
yeah,
yeah, I know Paul very well.
called him Denzel and he ignored the guy,
Well,
and the person that shouted him was like, well, he was rude. And someone commented on Facebook saying, well, that's not his real name.
quite. No, of
You
Paul,
course.
need
yeah.
to,
If you would have said Paul, probably would have been
Yeah,
yeah,
fine.
would have been
But
fine. No, sure. No, absolutely. No, he's a nice guy, Paul. I'm sure he would have, you know, commented to him that way. But I
yeah,
mean, it's like you know, calling you Phil or something, you know, you're not
yeah,
going to
it's
say
not my
that, are you?
name.
Not
no,
your name. So I mean, you know, don't you think, well, fair enough. But you know, I don't know. I mean, it's like, but it is a bit kind of, you know, it's difficult because you're in people's homes, you know, and so therefore they think they kind of know you in a way, you know. I mean, in a strange kind of way. I mean, I remember, you know, people coming up to me once and saying, "Oh, you're off the telly, aren't you?" You know, or "You're on the telly," and I said, "Well, you mean like I'm an ornament or something?" So no, and you know, I mean, but it's fine. I mean, because people, you know, particularly someone like me, they might recognize the face, but they can't put it to a particular role, you know, because they might have seen me in something, you
Lots of
know.
things, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, and that's so they'll come up and say you're off the telly as opposed to didn't you play whatever in whatever, you know. So and you think that's fine, and I'm because sometimes I don't know. I mean, I remember somebody. It's very funny. We were on holiday, Maggie and I, and we were in Italy, and somebody came up to us and said, "Oh, you're Paul and Jess, aren't you?" And we said, "Well, no, actually, no, we're not." "Yes, you are. You're Paul and Jess. We were supposed to meet you here, and blah blah blah." And I said, "No, I think you've got it wrong. You know, I'm sorry, we're not Paul and Jeff. We're just on a holiday. You know, blah blah blah." And it was extraordinary because eventually I said, "Listen, I mean, it's possible that you might recognize us because you know we've been on the box. You know." And she was about. She just went, "Oh no, it wouldn't be anything like that." Do you know what I mean? It was that completely dismissed us. It was just so funny because you know, she didn't want to be, you know, and she was embarrassed to think that she might have made an idiot of herself. But so, you know what I mean? It was just kind of, and those are the sort of things. I mean, it just made me laugh because I suddenly thought it's clearly what, you know,
yeah,
particularly Maggie, because she was much more high profile than me. But it was that kind of, you know, they obviously, you know, they recognized us, and so we must be those people that they were meeting, you know, because they were supposed to be a friend of a friend, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, that can happen now and again, but I've never had anybody particularly be rude to me. You know, they've always been charming and nice, and you know, which I'm very grateful for. And on the odd occasion when it's happened, you know. There was one
yeah.
other one that was very funny. I was outside the theatre as well, and I'd just been doing something in the theatre, and I came out, and there were a couple of guys there with programs, you know, for the show, and it's very funny because they would ask me to sign the programs, and I said, of course, no problem. And then some lady came along and said, who completely ignored me and said, who is he then? And the wonderful thing was that neither of the guys knew either. They had to look up in their program to see who I was. They obviously just wanted to, have a program that had everybody's a signature in it. It was quite comical. So I mean, there was sort of lovely, lovely incidents like that, which are, they're fond memories too. I mean, it's just, the nice thing about Brits, I like to think, is that we can certainly laugh at ourselves,
Yeah,
Definitely. And that's part of the reason for Fools and Horses' success, I think.
I think you're right. No, absolutely. No, absolutely. No question about it. It's just, it's great. And a great success it continues to be, clearly, I mean, a number of people who follow it still and, watch repeat after repeat, presumably,
I read
Yeah,
the
it's-
books as well.
Go on,
Sorry?
Emily, say that again.
I read the books, like David Jason's
Oh, right.
biographies and
Is it
stuff
things
like that.
Oh, right. Yeah, great. No, it's, well, of course, he's had a very, very successful career, David Owens, he's remarkable, really, how he's done. I remember one point during, Yorkshire Television, which I think has become part of Granada now, but in the old days, Yorkshire Television, if they did a drama, if a writer put in a script, if there wasn't a part for David Jason or John Thor, then it wouldn't get made. It was either, you had to have either John Thor or David Jason in it, so they were very lucky actors. I mean, had stuff written for them a lot, of course. No, amazing, really.
Yeah, very varied as well, his work, wasn't it? Because he did the
Yeah.
comedies, but he did like A Touch of Frost and things like that. And
Right. No, it's great. I mean, it's an ideal actor's career, I mean, you want variety in your work, if you can. Most of us get typecast for certain things. I mean, I did, I'm sure you won't believe this, but I did a lot of policemen, I mean, a lot.
I noticed that.
And I mean, I was very grateful for it at the time. It was great, I'd done detectives and police constables and all sorts of things over the years. And unfortunately, people retire about 55 in the police. So I mean, suddenly the work stopped when I got into my late 50s. Unfortunately, well, I mean, the work didn't stop, but the policemen stopped. Didn't get.
There's a lot of police shows, to be fair, isn't there?
Oh, there are, yeah, and hospital shows, and it's I don't know, they seem to be very popular, and I mean, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just thought about Bergerac, it was like, there's basically the same story, aren't they? You get a villain, and then there's, you investigate it, and then they get arrested, or or in hospital. I remember the thing about when I was doing Casualty, we'd be delivering patients, and they'd either cure them or they'd die. That was basically the premise of most of them. It's like, so it's, I don't know. A writer said to me once. He said, I suppose there's only one story really, and that's a stranger comes to town. You think, okay, you can make lots of stories about that, and but people, I know they're very popular, hospital and detective stuff. Otherwise, they wouldn't make them.
Yeah. My wife watches Casualty a lot. She loves
Oh,
it.
does she?
Yeah.
Even now.
Even now, yeah.
Even now, I suppose, because it's left now, hasn't he, Derek? I think is he left now, Derek?
I don't know. I don't watch it, but she does.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
We've met someone on here from Casualty. He played Noel, the receptionist.
Oh, right.
Tony
He was in-
Marshall?
Yeah, because he was in Only Fools.
Oh, right. No, after my time, he was then. So he, I don't know. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, he was in one of the specials, wasn't he?
Oh, right.
Can't remember what it was, but he was in that one and in Casualty.
Casualty as well as a
Yeah.
regular, and
Yeah.
in reception. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a long time ago. I mean, I think between series 2 to 5, I think, and then I don't know. Oh, heaven knows what number series it is now, but it's been going.
Must be so many. Tony's going to be at the convention as well. Tony Marshall.
Tony Marshall, right? Oh, okay. I'll keep my eye out for him.
We're going to have to ask you a question that the other Chris would normally ask. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it.
Right.
He always asks about memorabilia because he collects all the Only Fools and Horses memorabilia. He's got a whole room dedicated to it.
Wow.
Did you keep anything from your time on the show?
I'm afraid not. He's going to be very disappointed from that point of view, I'm afraid. No, No, I never did. I kind of I mean, I had the uniform, of course, you know. I mean, sometimes I don't know. I mean, sometimes you think, oh, I like that pair of trousers, and I think, well, can I buy it? You know. I mean, funnily enough, I went out the other night and a pair of trousers that I got from Coronation Street still fits. I'm really pleased about. But you know, I think things like that. I mean, often you know, because it's either going to go into the wardrobe store and things like that, and then I'll just be there for years, you know, unless it might fit somebody. But then if it's something you particularly like, often they'll allow you to buy it, you know, off them. So at a discounted price too, which is nice. But you know, I had a police uniform in that, of course, and so I mean, they weren't going to allow me to take that away with me. And I don't think. I mean, I don't think I had any props or anything like that, even though I was surrounded by props at the time. But
Script?
well, no, not script. I don't think I've got that anymore. I mean, Maggie's very good. She often keeps her scripts, and I just think, well, you know, I usually put them in the drawer, and I usually use them if I need to print anything out, you know, and I'll use them at the blank bit, the blank side, you know. So I'm afraid not. No script either. I'm afraid.
Recently, we spoke to an actor who was in Miami twice. Do you remember that one with the mafia? Do you remember that one?
No, I don't. I'm
No,
afraid.
it was a later one. It was a bit of a different one, really. It was kind of
Right.
like a movie.
Oh, okay.
But he
Well,
was one of the American guys in the mafia,
oh,
and he
right.
was annoyed that he lost his script because he was told he would be given 1,500 for it if he had it today.
Gosh.
So-
Well, there you go. There you go.
but you wouldn't know back then, would you?
No,
Presumably.
you won't. Of course not. You know, you don't even think about it. It's just, you know, well, that's finished with that. That's scrap paper now, or whatever. You know. Of course, I mean, nowadays they don't even send you a script. Now they just send you an email with a script.
Email.
You have to
Yeah.
print it out. You
Save
know.
on paper.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's right. And you know, so you either print your own out, or you sometimes you just stick it on an iPad, depending on you know what you're doing and what you know, and do that sort of thing. Really, I mean, certainly in you know, I mean, I did an audio book this week, and I mean, I just you know didn't print it out at all. I just put it on my iPad. And the nice thing about an iPad is you can scroll it, and you don't have to turn the page over and make a noise. You
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
in the old radio days, there was a great technique where you had to turn the page really carefully, you know, so it didn't make a noise near the microphone. So,
I think
no.
the funniest thing we found out, Emily, wasn't it about Jumbo Mills and his wig?
Yeah.
That was funny.
I can't remember now.
Well, he kept his wig like for years. I don't know if you remember that episode where he's bald and he's got a wig and it comes off during the episode. But
Oh, right.
I joked to him. I said, "You haven't still got your wig, have you?" Because he was bald.
Yeah.
He said, "Actually, I kept it for about a decade after I
Oh,
had
wow.
it
Oh,
because they said to him, it's not going to fit anybody else. You can have it."
you can have it. How funny.
He hasn't got it now, but
Well, no,
funny.
probably sold it to somebody, did he?
No, he said he wished he did.
No, I bet. No, I bet. I don't. Well, you come across these things occasionally. You think, oh my goodness. But I mean, as I say, I don't know. I mean, as I said, I think whenever I get asked to sign a photograph, it's usually from Only Fools. You know, so it's extraordinary how successful this was.
We interviewed Sue Alderness a couple of weeks ago, and she had like a Dalmatian printed jacket in one of the episodes.
Right.
She didn't keep it, but she found one very, very similar in a charity shop.
Oh, right. Oh, no.
So she bought it, signed it, and the money that she got from it, she gave to the Alzheimer's Trust.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
Can't remember what she got for it though. It was quite a lot.
Oh, she's lovely, Sue.
Yeah.
I know her. She's lovely. She's going to the convention, so I'll look forward to seeing her. I think she's doing both days as well. So that'd be nice.
Weekend, yeah.
Yeah, the whole weekends. So I'm just doing the Sunday, I think.
Along with Tessa Pete Jones and Gwyneth Strong, and of course David. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I don't know any of the others. I mean, I know. Funny enough, I know Carol Chalice, who's John's widow, of course, and I haven't seen her for ages. She sent me a nice message the other day saying, "Looking forward to seeing you." So, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing her too. Delightful lady, and really sad about John. I mean, he was a super actor as well. I mean, I know people think of him a lot for the show, but I mean, I remember the first thing I saw him do he did a wonderful performance, a one-man show about South Africa and apartheid, and he was fantastic in it. It was during the apartheid period, long before, you know, long before the release of Nelson Mandela and all that. I mean, so it was just a wonderful comment on their terrible regime, you know. But he was brilliant in that. And I mean, when I think of John, I always think of him in that rather than doing Only Fools, you know, and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you always think of the Only Fools and Horses characters, don't you? I mean, remember John talking about when he went to Roger Lloyd Pack's funeral,
right,
and about all the other programs, all the other theatre shows that he'd been in serious parts.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no. Well, he was a fine actor, you know, Roger Lloyd Pack. And they've all got great histories of, you know, before they did the show. But like I said before, often you get attached to a character, and people think
They're
of you.
unforgettable. You can't think of anybody else, I guess.
That's right. No, that's right. You can't, you know, nobody else could do that part, you know, no question. Yeah. Although there wasn't Only Fools. Did they do a stage show of Only Fools?
Musical.
Yeah. Musical. Did you see that? Or...
No, I lived far away.
The other Chris needs to be on. He saw it. I heard one of the songs in it, which wasn't too bad. Where Have All the Cockneys Gone? That was one of them.
Oh, right. Okay.
We did speak to somebody from the show, didn't we, Emily?
Yeah, he played Del Boy, didn't he?
Yeah, he was one of the Del Boys.
Right.
But no, I didn't get a chance to see it, and I should have seen it because I live quite near London, but for whatever reason, I didn't get the chance. I think they're on in local theatres now, so.
Right. Oh, okay. Perhaps on tour, or whatever. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, I live down north, so London's a bit far for me.
Oh, is it? Whereabouts up north?
Burnley.
Oh, Burnley. Oh, wow. Yes, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Manchester originally, so I kind of, you know, I know that part of the world a bit.
Yeah, it's not the best, but I lived in Blackpool for 20 years. It was a lot quieter.
I can imagine it is. I can imagine it is. No, I mean, yeah, I remember. I mean, Burnley, of course. I mean, they got relegated along with my team, I'm afraid, last season too.
They did.
You know, but good. You know, you've got a great bowler though. I mean, Jimmy Anderson, who's just retired, but he's from Burnley, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know if we follow cricket. We probably don't, but yeah. One of the finest bowlers that we've ever had. So, you know, yeah, I'm going off piste again.
It's all right.
Well, it's been lovely to speak to you, Geoff.
You too, Chris, and you too, Emily. Nice to
meet you.
And you too. No, it's my pleasure.